The movie opens in outer space with the starship Avalon on autopilot heading to the colony world of Homestead 2 during a mass exodus of Earth's population. The crew and the 5,000 passengers are all in hibernation pods for the 120-year journey. It is 30 years into the journey. The ship travels through a meteor storm, and power is diverted to the forward shields. Then the ship collides with a large meteor and the power blinks. Red alert screens come on in the control area, then quickly go back to normal. Something bad has happened. Jim Preston, Chris Pratt, a mechanical specialist, awakens in his unit with a merry PC voice letting him know that soon they will show up at Residence 2. He is informed that feeling confounded and powerless subsequent to being in hibernation is typical. The following day he awakens, attempts to choose what to wear while meeting individual travelers, then, at that point, advances toward a cafeteria where he is the one to focus on. He goes to a direction meeting about existence as a pilgrim on property, yet he is the final straggler. The lively PC-produced teacher can't comprehend his inquiry regarding the reason why no other person is there. Jim goes to the principal concourse and gets no assistance from the data booth. He finds an office where he can make an impression on the property organization, that he is cautioned will be costly. He communicates something specific making sense of he is the only one conscious and needs assistance, then, at that point, figures out it will be 15 years before anybody on Earth accepts his message. He is all alone. Jim tracks down manuals for all the boat hardware. He concentrates on the manual on the hibernation units yet can't figure out how to kick it off again once the individual has awakened. He can't get into the region where the team cases are to attempt to wake anybody for help, and he can't get into the order region. His wristband doesn't give him the appropriate freedom. Jim finds an android barman named Arthur, Michael Sheen, who he can converse with, however the android is customized to apportion barman exhortation, as in the event that you could do without where you are, change things. Jim is a general class traveler with a fundamental lodge, and he breaks into a suite with more pleasant conveniences. A year passes as Jim utilizes the boat's diversion offices, however without others, he turns out to be all the more frantically desolate. He goes to an area where travelers can get into a space suit and go outside while securely fastened to the boat. He trips close to a unit with a lovely lady inside, Aurora Path, Jennifer Laurence. He concentrates on her traveler profile she had recorded before the boat headed out. She is a columnist and is making a trip to property to have an experience and find out about why individuals decide to be a pilgrim. He peruses her accounts and thinks she is awesome. He grapples with himself about awakening her, realizing that it will destine her to kick the bucket on the boat, yet he can't stand the disengagement following a year alone, so he physically makes her case wake her up, stowing away before she can see him. A similar lively PC program awakens Aurora and leads her to her lodge to rest. Aurora awakens the following day alone and meanders to the fantastic concourse where she meets Jim. He comes clean with her about how long he has been alert, yet he doesn't tell her that he awakened her. He has asked Arthur the android barman not to let Aurora know what he has done, and Arthur concurs. Aurora and Jim talk day to day, examine what can be attempted to fix the cases. Aurora swims, runs, and starts to think of her story. She inquires as to why Jim left planet Earth, and he says he jumps at the chance to make things and fix things, and on the planet, things get supplanted when they break and are not fixed. He needs to reside in a house he constructs himself. Her arrangement was to go to the state, spend a year there conversing with settlers about why they left Earth, then return to Earth. Aurora is a gold-class traveler and utilizations her status to obtain more intricate breakfast feasts than his standard leeway qualifies him for. They are cheerful, have their daily schedule of activity, watching the stars, exploiting the boat's diversion and eatery settings. One more year passes, and it's Aurora's birthday, and Jim plans an extraordinary surprise. He made a ring for her. Going into the bar, Aurora lets Arthur know that she and Jim have no mysteries and Jim concurs, not understanding that Arthur deciphers this as implying that Jim has let Aurora know that he awakened her. Jim ventures into the men's room, and Arthur lets Aurora know what Jim's decent decision to pick her to awaken. Aurora is crushed and incensed, and advises Jim to avoid her. One evening, she enters his lodge while he's resting, and attacks him with her clenched hands. While she's running, Jim utilizes a boat's radio to attempt to account for himself, however Aurora shouts that Jim ended her life. While this is all going on, the control room is all the more every now and again getting cautions of framework disappointments, more over the long haul. Jim and Aurora have seen little things like the cleaning robots having framework disappointments. It's presently a long time since the meteor crash. At some point, Gus Mancuso, Laurence Fishburne, awakens and shows up on the concourse. He is a deck team boss and has gotten up right on time. Hibernation cases have never fizzled, and he makes sense of that something major is off base. His wristband gets them into the war room, where they find that the boat's program diagnostics have fizzled and they need to physically take a look at each deck. While Gus runs tests before this should be possible, there is a significant gravity disappointment and Aurora nearly suffocates while in the pool. Gus finds that there have been flowing disappointments, and the PC can make a timetable that shows the principal disappointment was 2 years prior. Gus discovers that the initial not many disappointments made power redirections attempt and yet again level the heap, however the heap turned out to be excessively weighty, causing an ever-increasing number of disappointments. The entire boat is at risk for turning out to be dead in space, which will destine the whole team and travelers. The region originally impacted was in the principal motor region, yet they should do a manual review to tell where. As of now, Gus breakdowns, and Jim and Aurora take him to the hospital and put him in the clinical auto-symptomatic scanner. There are different corruption all through his body and passing is impending, in view of the failing hibernation case. He puts on his uniform and gets ready to bite the dust, and gives Jim and Aurora his wristband, so they can get to the region of the boat they need to go to fix things. In designing, Jim and Aurora find an opening made by a shooting star that goes through a few basic regions. At the point when they open one entryway, Aurora is nearly sucked out in view of an opening through the frame. She hinders it with a tablet Jim pushes to her, and Jim utilizes a fluid sealant to put additional seal to the opening. The region compresses, and they then gain proficiency with a combination motor. Exhaust must be physically vented. The manual supersede won't work. Jim needs to get into a spacesuit and go outside to fix it. He winds up going into the exhaust entry to open a fold, however it won't remain open, except if Jim holds it open so the manual vent will work. Presently frantic not to lose Jim, Aurora contends with him over the radio, however she pulls the switch. Jim is pushed out, his tie breaks, and there is an opening in his suit. He tells Aurora farewell. She races to get into a spacesuit herself and goes to search for him. She recovers Jim by snatching his tie, yet when they get inside, he is inert. She hauls him to the clinic, and the auto doc says Jim is dead. Aurora utilizes Gus' wristband and his supersede code to get the machine to revive Jim, and it works. He is alive, and she is feeling much better and excited. Afterward, things are back to ordinary on the boat. Jim chips away at the auto dock and tells Aurora he found that utilizing the order supersede he could return her to hibernation in the clinic, yet he would be separated from everyone else once more. Acknowledging she could at no point ever see Jim in the future, Aurora decides to remain conscious with him and make an existence with him on the boat, together. He gives her the shoddy wedding band he made before, which she acknowledges. After 88 years. It's the finish of the journey, and the chief and group conscious and come to the great concourse to find there is an immense tree, loads of following plants and vegetation, birds flying, and a lodge, that could have Jim and Aurora's grandkids in it. Aurora's voiceover is perusing her story to the travelers, making sense of how they made a decent life where they were.